All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me turn my music off. All right. I think, chat, you'll have to let me know if you can hear me because I was trying to do the fancy thing where you couldn't. So hopefully you can now. We should be live. I feel like I'm forgetting, other than my ping in Discord, which I just did. I feel like I'm forgetting something atrocious. But anyway, we are here, and before we do get started, what did you say, Mike, about your campaign? About there was romance and there was what?
Tragedy.
Tragedy. That's what it was. We were talking about our early campaigns we have run, and I told him there was no romance in mine. It was all tragedy, and I'm sure Glee in the chat can confirm because she's one of the campaign players from back in the day. But also, I don't know if you have been watching the chat. Odinsky Gaming is here, and he said, "Nice to see Mike is keeping on. Tried helping him out with an early iteration of a logo for Scale Mail. I didn't know that."
Nice.
Yeah. So he's here.
Hey.
All right. So anyway, we do have Mike here, and he was here not too terribly long ago. We did an interview talking about Scale Mail, and then he's Kickstarter did very well. He blew his goal out of the water, got some stretch goals, and then he also ran us a game, and maybe Glee was in that one. I know Meredith was there. We were trying to remember who was in that earlier. But anyway, we played a game. It was super fun. Fun little game. And then one of your stretch goals was solo rules, right? Or did that just come out of the ether?
It was something I always planned on some capacity. I'll be honest, we didn't hit the marks that for some of the stretch goals. I just put them in anyway because I rewrote it, and I thought, you don't know when you're making your own game where it's going to go when everything's done, all said and done. So I thought, screw it. I'm just going to make sure the people have the most stuff in the book. And the solo rules were very much something, even from the beginning. It was always something in the back of my head because it's all player facing, so players make all the rolls. The way I have a lot of the stuff structured is that it's easy to kind of run the game without anybody else, because you could just make all the rolls yourself. The monsters are pretty much just difficulties and kind of a plot about what actions they take. So it's easy enough if you're using a monster to say, okay, well, the goblin does this because this is what goblins do. But to be frank, I've been cursed or blessed, depending on what my friend's perspective is, with having a pretty regular, solid gaming group for the last 40 years or so. Not the same people, mind you, but relatively consistent gaming for a very long time, and a group of friends that we meet every week, and game. So I didn't have a ton of solo experience. I had little bits here and there, and I played like board games that emulate solo RPG play. Your Gloomhavens, your Paracle. Shout out to Sunderfolk if you haven't played it. It's wonderful. I don't think there's a squirrel in it, I'm sorry to say, but it has all animal protagonists. But yeah, I mean, it was something I had some experience with. So I have a friend named Justin Rowley, and he does a lot of solo play, and he had written up some stuff, and he was generous enough to let me use some of his material and sit down and work with me on some rules that really are scale mail specific, especially the oracle part of it, which is a big part of solo play. So we worked out something we call the mod oracle, which reflects a lot of the actual base rules of scale mail. So it kind of has that same flavor as the actual game, so it's very familiar. And wrote a nice little section in the appendix at the end, so we give people the option to play solo if they like. That we want to make sure they have that stuff in the book. I think it'd be easy enough to do on your own, but we thought for people maybe who aren't as experienced or familiar like myself, since then I have, in developing the rules with Justin and kind of playing around with them on my own. Yeah, I've done more. But it was an interesting experience for me. Like I said, it's not something I knew a ton about. So it was kind of fun to explore that aspect of gaming and kind of see the appeal of it and see why so many people do it.
Well, it's been exciting to finally see Scale Mail come to my digital bookshelf. I have a physical copy in the mail somewhere. I'm sure, right?
You have a physical copy that will be sent to the printer here shortly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
probably in the next few weeks we will start shipping actually the physical copies. Part of what we're doing is giving people a little time to see what I screwed up. Um, I had a very good editing staff that helped with the game. I had a lot of people who knew more about layout than me, who gave me a lot of advice along the way to get things set up to make the book hopefully look pretty. And inevitably, no matter how hard you try and how much effort you put, and how many times you look over the book, something got missed or messed up or screwed up. So we're giving it a couple weeks, get some feedback from the people who have the book, see if they see any issues or problems, and then we can fix that before we actually put it, ink to paper. So
So you got the layout experience and got to
I
see
do.
how, well, by experience I mean you got to experience the joys of layout.
I do. I did. I am been a freelance writer for RPGs for about 10 years. Never did any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wore a lot of hats to cover my bald head for this project, and yeah, I don't, hopefully the hats fit well enough that it looks at least professional as I can make it look. So
Well, it looks good to me. Let's see. We actually have some pages on here. Let me shrink chat down. Whee! Actually, I might as well hide that. You're not going to be able to see it if I make it small enough. Let's see. Chat. Boop. There you go. You're gone now. So these are, well, this character sheet, and then these are pages, a couple pages from the book that we might need to reference. We got some little magical things we're going to do. But, I mean, it looks snazzy to me. Now, the printing, you were messing with a couple different printers. Is it going through DriveThruRPG? Are they printing it, or did you go?
no. I'm going. It depends on where you're at in the world. For the U.S. and the U.K., it's through a company called Book Vault. Um, I saw them a lot of places that when you're looking for printers that that are more affordable, because like you said, we hit goals, we made more than we expected, but it was still a modest Kickstarter. So I want to make sure we get the best bang for our buck in terms of that. So yeah, no, I'm very pleased with the quality of that. So that's who we're using in the US. Now there's some places in the world we have to use Amazon KDP, just because
Right.
between duties and tariffs and all the other fun things going on right now, I didn't want to increase the costs of the people who ordered it outside the US and the UK. So it's the best option. I think the quality will still be fine. I've got a lot of test prints from them, and they're good books. I think Book Vault has a slightly better quality in some places, but I've also heard that some of the KDP printers outside the US are actually fantastic. So that's what we aim for. So yeah,
I've got some actually right behind me, some books that I've printed through KDP, and I feel like it's the shipping that ruins them more than anything.
Yeah, that is what I hear from a lot of people. I will tell you, when I got my proofs sent from Book Vault, those things were packed tight. Like they put a lot of effort into making sure they were secure.
Yeah.
When I got my ones from KDP, they were in a bubble envelope. So I mean,
Yeah, so I was gonna
out of
say,
fine.
like, it's print wise, it's fine, but yeah, it was just in a box that was about the exact size of it, so the corners are
Yeah.
always they're kind of smashed in a bit. But
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, especially with game books, that ends up, happening to all of them anyway.
yeah,
They're well. If you're playing a game, it's gonna be well loved, and it's gonna show wear and tear from that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's just it's that logistic stuff that you as a writer too. It's just you got to figure this stuff out. Um, and there's certain bells and whistles, I couldn't put in that I would love to have put in because just the printers don't have that available. And you have to hit a certain threshold with most you know printers. If you're looking for something that's more of a bespoke printing, you have to have the money to pay for it, and volume is a big part of it. If you're going for one of the bigger printers that you can add all the bells and whistles to the book, it's not really financially viable until you hit a certain threshold of people.
yeah.
So it's just, yeah, it's all the business side of things that you kind of don't expect, and you have to kind of navigate when you're doing the self-publishing, So, but we're not here to talk about self-publishing, so
I mean,
we can't talk about
a
self-publishing.
little bit.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say I had a contest drawing recently where they could win a copy of my book, and one of the winners was in Chile, so I learned how much it costs to ship something out to his way. But I will say,
Yep.
so I went to I had two winners, and I went to raffle. Yeah, raffle. I went to this little local shop shipping place right here, just a few minutes from the house, and I sent one out to somewhere in the States, and it was about expected, $10 or whatever, 15 or something. And it's like, okay, that's fine. And then they started doing the one for Chile, and they're like, well, if you go through UPS, it'll be $300. And I was like, what other options do you have? And they said, well, if you go through USPS, it's not as insured or whatever, but it'll be $100. And I was like, well, considering I'm not even 100% sure I have the right address, let me think about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing I found out, because, okay, so same thing. Like I had one person in Australia who ordered the book. I don't know if you're watching, but if you are, thank you. But and Book Vault, the company I'm using to print them, actually has printers in Australia, but for whatever reason, and this goes by Amazon KDP too, they don't do hardcovers. Like Canada and Australia, for whatever reason, and I think Japan for KDP, there's no hardcovers. I don't know if it's just the printers in the area, or maybe that's something in those areas. They just, not a lot of people buy hardcover books, so it's just not a common thing. So I have to ship, one hardcover book to Australia. And I kind of did the same thing where I'm like, okay, let's look FedEx.
How bad can it be?
Yes. It was actually not probably as bad as Chile, it sounds like, because it was like 50 or $60. Then I looked at Amazon, it's like $8. I'm like, what? It's like, okay, $60, 8. Now, mind you, our discussion about the quality of the shipping, it's probably going to be crossing the Pacific in a bubble wrapper. So hopefully it gets there intact. But yeah, it was just like the weirdest thing. I'm just like, is that right? $8? That can't be right. It's like, no, it's $8.
So I found this site, and this will be my pro tip for the night for anybody doing their own stuff and shipping a bunch of things out. I found this site called, and I swear it's legit so far anyway, Pirate Shipping. And what they do, how they get away with this is, so when Amazon or Walmart or whatever that does a lot of shipping, they buy, like you were saying, bulk amounts of labels for UPS or whatever postal thing they're doing. So they get all their labeling at a discount. And by labeling, I mean permission to ship something. So what this Pirate Shipping does, they started in 2014, I think it was. So they're not too terribly old. They just buy a bahoogle, which is a very technical term, a bahoogle of labels, and then they just sell them at a much cheaper rate, which is technically what, like, those local stores that I went to. Yeah. But those little local mom and pop ones aren't able to sell them as cheap.
Like bulk.
Yeah, so they mark them up higher. So the Pirate Shipping has a much less markup. So when I sent something to Chile, that same thing, that's what I ended up doing. So that local place wanted $100 to go through the United States Postal Service, and I think, through Pirate Shipping, it was 30. So yeah.
I'm bookmarking this as we're talking right now.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, and like you can, if I was saying, if you have bulk amounts to do, like hey, there's the guy from Chile right there. You can just upload a spreadsheet and it'll make all your labels for you and everything. So it's pretty
I might
legit.
need to look at this.
Yeah, when I was looking into it, I found out that apparently that's what a lot of eBay sellers use.
Okay.
So
I might actually look into that, because, like I said, I would love to get the copies that we have, through this other printer out to people around the world. But this might actually be an excellent option. So thank you for that. So
yeah.
That might really be worth looking into. So, okay.
All right.
I'm noted. So,
That's me, the
but
chili guy. Yeah, that's your question.
yeah,
Hopefully, your book will show it. We're still waiting to see if it actually makes it, but it did.
yeah. I guess that's the acid test there.
It
Like, will
did.
they
They
actually get
did
it?
pick it up and didn't send it back. Like that's what I was
Okay.
worried about. They were going to scan it, boop, and say, "What the heck is this?" And
Yeah.
throw it back in my house. But no, they took it. The problem is, since it's United States Postal Service, the tracking number does nothing once it leaves the country.
Right.
And I could have done UPS for significantly cheaper than what that place wanted, but they were like, well, we might, they weren't, this was Chile specifically, like they might charge, basically UPS acts as customs for them
Yeah.
when they're shipping stuff, so they might pass that fee on to him when it arrives. So I'm like, well, can I pay it now so he doesn't have an so I was like, let's just go USPS instead, so we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of, again, not to keep going back to Amazon, but that is kind of technically the benefit of Amazon, because they do take care of some of the stuff, like
yeah.
so like the VATs and other stuff like that's already accounted for, when with your when you do your shipping prices. So yeah, yeah, it's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass it on to people I know too who kind of have the same issue.
Yeah. Keep that in mind. All right. Yeah. So Glee said over in Discord that she likes the giant sword stat section. So they already getting fans. It is pretty nice.
Yeah. I
Big ol'
love the
sword.
artist guy, Jason Pickerling, who did the character sheet. Good guy. Like I love that sheet. I'll be honest. It was kind of one of those things, like, you do a lot of this stuff, and a lot of times, when you're getting artists, you unless you know them personally and you know their work, you're maybe seeing you're seeing their best work, I should say, when you're seeing their portfolio. And he sent that back to me. I'm like, wow, that was much, much better than I expected. So
character sheets are hard, man.
I tell you what, it's a struggle, but like I said, I when he came back with it, I was just like, yep, that's it. That's the sheet. That's
That'll
perfect.
do.
Yep. So, but yeah, so as far as the solo stuff goes, there's a couple things that I have in the book. Like I said, there's specifically an appendix at the end, which is all solo rules. And I also have, a discussion about random encounters. I have a random encounters table that I made in the narrator section, the GM section. It's a very generic one, specifically intentionally. It's supposed to be one you can modify and use, and as an example, if you would create your own. But as a functional table, I've actually used it in my game sometimes when I'm kind of in the middle of something and don't really have an idea of what's going to happen next. But if we could do the quick review, I'll put the stuff on the board.
Sure. I will also say the PDF, if you can find it, ladies and gents, has a great Easter egg. Now, I'm not going to spoil it, but he showed it to me before we went live, and it's pretty great.
It's a little secret that when Mike got bored while doing layouts, there's a tiny little Easter egg in there. So okay, so the random encounter table, it's nothing that's it's a fairly bog standard random encounter table. It's just it's just what it is, but it's generic enough that it can apply to pretty much any situation. There's some more specific stuff in there. And I like a random encounter table. I like that we live in this wonderful era between websites and people publishing great books. That there's just tons of these books just full of tables, it's, do you need to know the name of the barmaid who's serving you your grog? Oh, okay, yeah, well, here you go. You go to your barmaid name table. There's something literally for probably everything at this point. So, it's easy enough to, especially with a solo play game, it's easy enough to kind of find what you need, between, those kind of books, between online generators and tables that you can find. I mean, you can find some excellent online generators that just generate an entire dungeon with maps and encounters. I'm not going to get into the AI discussion, but technically, yeah, I know people who use AI chatbots as a GM or to role play out social encounters. There's lots of tools you have to do that. So there are tools in the book. but there's a lot of great tools that you can find elsewhere. And I think that's, in my experience with my solo play experience, that's something I usually do ahead of time, is kind of come up with tools and ideas and all the things I'm going to need. The other big part of it, is, I'll put that in here too. Sorry, random encounter table, you're getting
No, no.
blocked for a second. It's the mod oracle. Like I said, this is what Justin and I came up with. So, oracle is of course a big part of solo play. Whenever you need that yes or no question answered, it's kind of a nice little randomizer, or flip a coin, or however you do your oracle. There's tons of ways to do it. So when we were coming up with this, one of the things we talked about was the idea that, one of the big mechanic in scale mail is that you roll a d20 plus another die, or minus another die, depending on how bad things are going for you. And we discussed how to incorporate that into the oracle for the solo rules. And what we came up with was that essentially you still roll a d20 to determine the yes or no, or yes and, or no, or yes but, no and, no but. But you can choose to add a mod die to your d20 to tweak the probabilities. So if you want a no, or you think a no is more likely for the situation, you subtract a die from a d4 to a d12, depending on how much of a increased probability. If you would think a yes is more likely, then you add a die from a d4 to d12. Again, it's not really making it absolute, that you can still you can be rolling a d20 and d12 and still roll a no easily. But it's kind of tweaking it a little bit in a direction that you see fit. So there's a little bit of control there. There's a little bit of modification you could do. You can just roll a d20 every time if you don't want to really play with the mod aspect of it. But I think that's kind of the fun aspect of it, is kind of like, okay, in the scenario, I've decided that it's more likely that this guy I'm talking to does have the information I need. So I'll roll the oracle. I'll add plus d10 to it, and then roll to see where it goes. So the odds are technically more in my favor that yes, I'm gonna get a yes answer. But again, it still might not work out. So it leaves that random aspect to it as well.
I like that though, because that's like your core system too, is the adding the modifiers to it and everything. So
Yeah, and that was a lot of Justin, because we were talking about it, and he said it should have the flavor of the system, and that's kind of what we came up with. And and like a lot of oracles, there are the yes ands and the no buts. Sometimes is there a benefit that you get from it? Is there an opportunity, we call it, where that if you get a yes and, okay, you have the answer of yes that you wanted, and here's an extra benefit on top of that, or here's a little perk, or here's something that could open up for you, an opportunity, as it were, that can maybe give you a little something interesting or extra, or something to modify an encounter if it leads to an encounter. And the same thing goes with butts. Yes, he does have the information, but he is expecting you to pay him for it. So, if you look at this table for complications, opportunities, maybe you rolled a 3, so you rolled a loss. So you're going to have to give up a bag of gold to him to get the information from him. So, that's where you can further tweak it, so that you can have a little bit of extra stuff, and you can have a little bit of, extra things that you have to figure out, that it might, take the encounter or the situation in a direction you really didn't expect, or that leads you to another opportunity that even with a no, the no is not the answer you really wanted for the situation, but it opened the door. No, he doesn't know what you need to know, but he does know someone who does. Or he leads you, maybe you should talk to this guy, the sage of the tower, he might have the answer you're seeking. So yeah, so it's kind of giving you that extra stuff in there that you can kind of tweak where things end up going. And then the other thing that this is specifically something that Justin had. This is, like I said, but he let me take some of his materials and add them into the rules. These are things he developed, but he has the journey inspiration tool down here at the bottom, where it's kind of like when you start the journey, that what's your goal, what's your end target, and a reward. You can do that for everyone. You can just come up with one depending on what your situation is, what kind of thing you're trying to play, what you need to kind of help inspire you. And these are 2 example tables that are in the book, to give you inspiration, either use as is or to modify or add to or create your own. And then the context oracle, which is just something that just generates a word, a noun, a verb, an adjective, to kind of, again, give you some more inspiration. If you're trying to figure out something, don't know which direction to go, want to give it some kind of interesting stuff, these can help you with that too. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of tools in the book to help give you everything you need. There's a lot of discussion about how to run a solo game if you're not familiar with it. Some things to kind of plan ahead of time. Do you want it to be focused more on combat, or do you want it to be focused more on, are you going to kick down doors and kill monsters in your solo game, or are you going to your cat? I don't know if your cat liked that or not. No, cat seems pretty chill. Yeah, so I mean, or are you going to do more of a social game, or are you going to do an exploration game, or however you want to do it. Talking about the different things you need to kind of think about before you start a solo game, and how to prepare for it. The things you can have ready, and use the tools that we have in the book, or use other tools. This is something that we put in the book to give you an option. But obviously, if you have solo rules that you're already using, if you've got ideas in mind, if you've got something that you prefer, if a lot of the solo stuff I've seen, you just can easily attach it to any rule system. So that's, like I said, we want to make sure. One of my goals with this game was to make it as complete as possible in one book. So I know there are games
you got
out
a
there
big book, I can tell you that.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm not going to name names, but I don't want it to be a game where you have to buy 3 $60 books to have everything you need to play. I don't know who that would be. But yeah, so it's just that, for depending on what you're paying, 15 for a PDF, 35 for a soft cover, 45 for a hardcover. It's going to be something that, it's hopefully affordable, and hopefully gives you things that you can tell stories and play games, whether by yourself or with other people. So
I like it. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be semi-solo. I mean, obviously there's 2 of us here, so it can't be completely solo, but yeah. He's I believe, so I am the guinea pig here, and the character is actually Skrat. That is the character.
If you've watched the previous live play, this is not the same Skrat the Barbarian. This is Skrat the kind of paladin, I would describe him as. This is a Skrat that uses a couple things in the game that, oddly enough, even in the playtest, were not really explored a whole lot. So we're kind of exploring it with you. One of the aspects of the game, so we have a good range of ancestries in the game. From the traditional fantasy tropes, your elves, your dwarves, your orcs, your poor, boring, bog standard humans. But we also have some of our, more unique, interesting ones. We have our bobs, who are blob people. We have the remnants, who are undead. We have the rooted, who are plants. And then we have the wilder, who are animals that were infected by civilization. We kind of designed the wilder. Me kind of designed the wilder to hopefully that you can pretty much make any animal that you want. So if you really want to play a capybara, you could probably do it. Clearly, you can play a squirrel. We've done that before. Yeah. Fish. If you want to play a nice carp, you can play a carp. But one of the things it's right at the beginning of the ancestry chapter that, oddly enough, no one ever did in the playtest is the idea of dual ancestries. So if you want to play a half elf, half dwarf, yeah, you can play half elf, half dwarf. If you want to play a half orc, half rooted, you figured out how that works out, you can do it. If you want, a human with one undead arm and play a remnant human, absolutely can do it.
Glee
So
wants
that's
to
kind of
know if you can play as a kraken.
yeah, technically,
A very small kraken.
very tiny kraken, but yes, you can play a small kraken, itty bitty little kraken, a baby Cthulhu. You can absolutely play. So basically, what we have here with this version of Skrat is half Wilder, half Squirrel Wilder, and half Rooted, the tree people. And part of his background that we gave him is the idea that when he woke up as a Wilder, when he kind of evolved from a plain old squirrel to a manly squirrel, part of him, specifically, parts of his body, are plant life now, and he doesn't know why. And that's kind of what his central drive is to figure out what happened to him, who he is, why is he this way, why he's half plant and half squirrel. The other thing that he also is part of what the game does is there's kind of a multi-classing feature in Scale Mail. What it means is that there are three classes: warriors, weavers, who are magic users, and wanderers, who are the normal folk. I always refer to them as the Samwise Gamgee class. That it's like the tradespeople and the public speakers and the thieves, the burglars, the proper burglar, not a D&D rogue, which is kind of more of a fighter assassin when you kind of boil it down. But that within your class, you can change paths, which are kind of like your subclasses. So, you can start off as an assassin, warrior, and then later on you can pick up duelist or archer. And, you take things from each. So this version of Skrat is a weaver who has taken a little bit of Spell Knight, which is magic using warriors, and Divine Chosen, which are the clerics. So he is essentially a paladin. He is a competent fighter. He also has access to magic. Specifically, he has the School of Earth magic, which he gained from being a Spell Knight, and the School of Healing, which he gained from being Divine Chosen. So that's kind of one of the things about the game where I wanted to kind of give people that diversity, that you can stay in one path the entire career. He could have just been a Spell Knight for all 10 levels and been perfectly fine and be competent, but you can also diversify and tweak your character, and then the Wanderers have a special ability where they're the only ones who could do this. They can dip a little bit into other classes. They're the only ones who are allowed to do that. So they can take a little bit of warrior, or they can take a little bit of weaver to learn a little bit of magic. So, it's kind of that idea that they're the only ones who can kind of pick up some other skills. So yeah, so this Skrat is kind of a wonderful melange of different things from the game. So basically what the scenario is, Skrat, I'll be your AI chatbot. So
well, that means you have to praise me constantly too, right?
Yeah,
because that's how they work.
This is a genius idea. This was a great idea. You really should try to lick the ogre. I think that's a wonderful idea. So basically, you have been seeking out answers for a long time to your heritage and your nature, since you have awoken as a Wilder. One thing that you have learned during your explorations and inquiries is there's a legend of a being known as the Old Man of the Woods, a great and powerful nature spirit that resides in an area of the world called Brigand's Bosque. Brigand's Bosque is a giant forest that, for the longest time, as kind of referenced by its name, was a hideout for outlaws, bandits, highwaymen, all kinds of ne'er-do-wells. Think like Sherwood Forest from Robin Hood. This huge area next to the Kingdom of Balovia that's just this massive forest that bad guys would hang out in. But over time, it also kind of became this home for people who were just kind of seeking their own path, trying to stay away from kingdoms and governments, and kind of became this haven for like free thinkers and independent minded people. And a lot of communities have kind of sprouted up within the woods itself, that they just kind of keep to themselves, govern themselves. Um, in fact, the de facto leader of the Bosque is usually determined by an archery contest that is held every few years at a location simply known as the Targets. Um, so you have found yourself in the town of Amberglade within the Bosque, which is relatively close to the Targets. Uh, if we were to look on a map,
Ooh,
let me see.
we got maps.
Yeah, we have maps. We got maps. We
We
got
got big
everything.
map.
So I don't know. Can I ping this? I don't.
I can see your mouse moving around, so if
Okay.
you just
Yeah.
wiggle,
So
yep.
yep. This is Brigand's Bosque. This little target area here is Amberglade. This little indicator here. Um, so it's kind of over here towards the edge of Brigand's Bosque before you reach the Sea of Glass. Um, and you have been told from your research that somewhere, potentially to the north of Amberglade, is the Old Man of the Woods, but no one knows his precise location. So this seems to be the closest thing you could find to a place to maybe get some information, maybe find a local who might know where he is, how to find him. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where we're starting out. You have just arrived in the town. Um, and let's see. Go ahead.
Oh well, I mean, if I'm in the town and I don't know exactly where the old man of the woods is, right? Like he just
Right.
kind of shifts around. Okay, so
Yeah. You don't really know much. You just heard the name and the legend that he's supposed to be some kind of nature spirit or some kind of tree entity. Some even rumors have suggested that he is the first of the rooted,
ooh,
the tree people. Uh, but again, that's
first,
all legend.
first of the rooted, supposedly.
Yes.
All right, I can never spell that. Supposedly doesn't matter. It's just my notes. Nobody has to read it. All right. All right, so if this were a solo session and I didn't actually have a GM, I would probably be like, all right, I'm going to ask around town to try and find information on where the old man of the woods supposedly lurks and like dwells, like try and pick up some rumors like, oh yeah, I totally saw him hanging around by the pond or something.
Okay. Let's roll on the Oracle.
Okay. All right,
We're
I'm
gonna
going
kind
to
of do this as
spread your oracles out here.
okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, we're gonna do this as a yes or no for sure. Um,
All right.
that whether or not there's somebody in the town that can help you. Um, and I'm gonna say your chances are pretty good. So how about you roll a d20 and a d10?
All right. And I think I got my fancy thing up here, so it should show up on stream. 20 and 10, you said?
20 and 10.
All right, so there's
And
a
add them
20.
together.
That's a 17 and a 10. Where's my D10? 4. So a total of 21.
Okay, that's a yes and.
Woo.
All right. So not only um, you ask around to a couple people, and a lot of people tell you that if anyone would know, it would be a woman by the name of Marsa. She is the town elder of Amberglade. She's not only the oldest person within the community, but she is uh, accomplished traveler. She has lived in the Bosque her entire life and knows most of the forest by like the back of her hand. Served as a guide for many people before kind of age and infirmity caught up with her. Um, she's usually found either in the town square, kind of watching over some of the town children while their parents are working and out, in the forests or, working around the town. And what you also hear is that she can be a bit of a pickle.
Pickle.
Yeah. But as far as your yes and um, she does have an affinity for wildlife,
Ooh.
and you are basically walking wildlife. So,
All right. Is Pickle likes wildlife? Get it.
mhm.
Okay, so I totally made all that up because I'm playing by myself. Right.
Right.
So all credit
I am
goes to me.
I am the voice in your head.
That's right.
So,
That's right. That's right. All right. So I will head to her
okay.
and I will obviously say I'll just spill the beans and be like, "Hey, I'm trying to figure myself out. I've heard about this old man of the woods, so I'm maybe not give her my whole life story, but I'll tell her my goals here and that I am looking to find this individual so I can talk to him and
Okay.
will
So
not
since
be
we're doing
holding
this,
my mace saying I want to talk to him."
hey, yeah. Well, okay. So we're since this would be a social interaction,
Yeah.
what we would normally do would be you probably make a roll to see how well she's accepting of you. So for scale mail purposes, you'd roll a d20. We
Mhm.
take your charm,
Yeah.
which is pretty solid at a plus 1d6, and I would consider this to be because you're being diplomatic in your approach to her, you're being respectful. You would add your diplomat, which would bump you from a d6 up to a d8.
That's
So you could
right.
roll a d20 plus a d8 to see if you have succeeded or if you have successfully made her like you.
22.
Yes, you have very much successfully made her like you.
Put the
In
moves on
fact,
Granny.
she looks when you first see her when you're getting to the town square, she looks like this she's very wrinkly, she's kind of, has a very Yoda like quality. Um just bent over, this tiny looking human woman, and looks very stern, and you can hear her like calling to the children, and no, you do not get in that rain barrel, you do not know how much algae is in that water, don't
Get
drink
off
from that
my
again,
lawn.
stop swimming in the horse trough. um but then she sees a giant half plant half squirrel trotting towards her, and her eyes light up immediately. um she kind of straightens her crooked back a little bit, and she goes wide, and she just looks fascinated. She's very accommodating. As soon as you approach her, she's happy to answer any questions that you have. So what questions do you have for her?
Well, that's what I was saying. So I will. The whole diplomacy thing there was spilling my
Mhm.
life story, I guess. And the
Yeah.
question was going to be that I am looking for this old man of the woods. Where might I find him or start looking for him?
Okay. So since you rolled a 22, you would set your own difficulty, obviously, if you're playing by yourself.
Yeah.
Now, let's say she's a bit of a pickle. So let's say the difficulty would have been about a 15, which is higher than a normal. Normal roll is generally about 12. Um, but let's say she was a little higher because, again, pickle this. But if you roll more than 5 above the base difficulty, you get a critical hit.
That's right.
So since you got a critical hit, clearly she is willing to spill whatever knowledge she has. Um, she does confirm to you that she has encountered the old man of the woods in her lifetime several times. Um, he is cryptic. He is a little hard to understand sometimes, but he is ancient. And as your rumors have suggested that it would be to the north, she suggests that you would go to the northeast. That's where she has seen him the most, especially this time of year. So
Northeast.
she can't tell you how far it would be. She can't tell you, exactly where, but if you go in that area, the one thing she also reveals to you is, and let's do a little roll here. Um, let's see here. Can we say? How about you roll me a d8, and we'll look at the context oracle to see.
Oh, that's a 1.
That's okay. Um, okay. So she said when she's seen him, there is a certain variety of tree that grows in the northeastern section that year round has bright red leaves. They're very distinct, and he seems to spend his most of his time in that area. So whenever you see trees with red leaves, even in this time in the middle of summer, that probably means you're about where he will be. So
All right. Write that down. Okay. So, Crabsoft says it's maybe a little unclear where all this info comes from. If you're truly solo, fair. But, like,
this is not a truly solo
yeah,
game.
as I was saying, we're semi-solo. I'm having help.
Yeah.
We're showing off how the system works and the oracles and whatnot. So,
yeah, I mean, it really depends on your personal style too. Like me personally, you know, I when I've solo played, I'm enough of a writer that I end up writing out like details.
Yep.
You know, so you're kind of getting my, you know, if I was rolling, like for example, you know, for there you rolled a 1 on the adjective of the context oracle, so crimson, and that's what came to mind for me first was the idea of like these vibrant red trees that would be in an area where you'd find them at. So that's kind of how I've ended up doing it. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I've never felt comfortable. I've seen people do it, and it's interesting to me that, you know, as somebody who has many degrees in psychology, I think maybe I've just been around people who suffer from schizophrenia a little bit too much, and you know have to deal with like voices and narratives in their heads. But like people having conversations with themselves, you know, when I've seen certain people stream or do solo games, and I thought, I don't know, I feel comfortable like sitting here going, you know, I am the wise master of the village. Oh, hello, I am Skrat. You know, role playing out that kind of scenario. But yeah, so
well, we were also talking before we went live too. He had asked me if I did much solo stuff, and I told him my problem was I've done it some, and I really enjoy it. You know, and you can just come up with some. But for coming up with stuff, I just try to think about it as little as possible. I mean, and just go like first thought that comes in and goes. But like my problem is 99% of the time when I want to play a solo game, it's at the end of the day when all my creative juices are completely spent. And then I'm like, well, now I don't want to do anything. So you do have to kind of be in the right mindset for when you sit down and do it. It's not
I agree.
Not a wind down thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it requires that too, and I think it really depends on what your goals are, you know, because there are obviously certain things with a solo game that, you know, it's kind of easy to do a dungeon crawl with a solo game because, you know, it's kicking down doors and fighting monsters. You know, it's going to be, you know, but when you're doing something where there is, you know, social interaction or things, you have to kind of figure out ways around it. And like I said, I think it depends on your thing. Like I literally have like pages of notes from when I was testing the solo rules, you know, where I wrote out these elaborate scenarios for things that happened. And even like if you read in the book, there's a example of solo play in that chapter, and it's literally my solo game that I ran when I was testing the rules. You know, it's very much, you know, just me writing things and coming up with context things and coming up with ideas about interpreting things in a certain way. So yeah, basically for this example, I'm your imagination. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's also
I'm
to keep things kind of moving too. But Glee says she called it guided solo, kind of, which reminds her of Cinder Edge. So Cinder Edge was what they call a journaling solo.
Yes.
I don't know if you dipped into those in your research, but
yes.
I also have one that somebody sent me that I'm going to go through. And just a quick glance, it looked like what you really would call guided solo. He's like, go grab the system you want, but here's my little adventure I'm going to run you through. But it's meant to be by yourself. So I'm curious to see how that goes out.
I mean, if you think about it, any of the solo board games that we talked about earlier, you know, your Gloomhavens, your Paracle, stuff like that, it's the same way. It's a guided adventure. You know, you have some input here and there, but for the most part, you're still kind of like, you know, have something that's set down in front of you. It says this is where the scenario is going to go. You know, you have choices you make along the way and things you can do to kind of like give it, you know, it's like a branching path in you know, a choose your own adventure book or like a, you know, an RPG, you know, so that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of that, you know, like I said, you're kind of getting my solo style, you know, in this too.
Yeah.
So for better or worse. So,
Well,
but anyway,
yeah.
you have crimson trees. You have this. So let's do something very simple to figure out how long it's going to take you to find these crimson trees. And how about you roll me a d4 plus 1?
D4 plus 1.
Mhm.
3 plus a 1,
3.
so 4.
Okay. So it'll take you 4 encounters.
Oh.
You know, and this is a classic thing from a friend of mine that my philosophy of like adventures in game is I grew up with classic first edition, second edition, third edition adventures where it's like here's a map, here's a bunch of numbered rooms that have stuff in them, here's some blank spaces that either have nothing in them or you can populate yourself. So anytime we play an actual dungeon, I have a friend that always will say, I will keep going until something interesting happens. So when you're doing a solo game, we're not going to sit here and talk about you have a lovely walk through the glens and then you pass over this wonderful thing and you have unless you're journaling, you have a lovely lunch of some berries that you found that you gathered along the way. But instead, we're just going to get right to the meat of it, and roll me a d20.
Big dice. Here we go. Oh, 5.
5. Along the way, you find a patch of flowers that might be valuable to an alchemist.
I mean, paladins can make a little money, right?
Right. All right. That's one encounter. Roll me a second encounter. See what happens along your journey.
Another 5. I'm going to be rich.
Let's roll again. Let's find something else on this table.
8.
8. Okay. As you are traveling, this is of course Brigand's Bosque. Despite the fact that there are some more civilized areas here, it's still ultimately the home to outlaws, ne'er-do-wells, nefarious folk. So you were traveling along a trail, and lo, before you, 3 bandits
Oh, no.
step out from behind a tree. And they brandish weapons at you and ask for all of your coin, your boots, that fancy mace you're wielding, all of your valuables. So you
I
decide
ain't
how
made
you'd
the
like
money
to handle
yet.
it.
I just got the flour. I ain't got time to sell them. Dang.
So you decide how you want to handle that scenario. There are 3 bandits.
Right, man. I'm a paladin. I'm a spell knight kind of thing. All right.
Yep.
So we're just gonna tell you what I'll do. I'll psych them out. I'll act like I'm gonna pull out a thing of money, but I see that I can summon a weapon, right?
You can.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pull out the mace.
Yeah, the way the spell knight works is that your magical implement is your weapon.
Yeah.
You've cast spells and done rituals on a weapon to make it the focus of your magic energy. Okay. So because of that, you can if it's got knocked out of your grasp or it's been taken from you, you can summon it back to your hand, or you can basically draw it as a free action. So when they see the weapon spring to your hand, of course, they're going to run at you and attack. So
the audacity.
Yeah. So let's this is me refreshing you on the rules because I know it's been a while since we played. So you need to make an agility roll to determine what your initiative value is.
Agility, D20 plus 6. 17.
17. Okay. So this way this works is you compare your agility roll to their combat score, which is a 13. So you will go before all 3 bandits.
Very cool. Very cool.
So you may act. And then whenever it's their turn, they're going to try to beat you down. So it's your action.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Well, I got the School of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Move Earth. Move up to a cubic feet of dirt.
We call that the magic shovel.
Yeah. Shield of stone, earth wave, shape earth. But okay. I see where I could use those. Well, the first guy will be simple. I'll just take my bonking stick and rush up to him and
Okay.
upside the head.
All right. So you're gonna make a because you're gonna make a strength roll to hit with a mace, but you are trained in maces, so you will roll a d20 plus a d6 to attack him.
18.
18. All right. So again, compare it to his combat. If your roll is higher than his combat,
Oh, okay. Everything goes against that number.
yeah, kept it simple.
Yeah.
Skill is basically anything that's fighting is combat. Anything that's not fighting is skill. So, so you handily beat his 13. In fact, you beat it by 5. So if he had more than 1 health, you would do 2 damage. But you have done enough to bonk him into oblivion. And because you have rolled a critical hit, you also knock him back. So how would you interpret that?
So
He gets knocked back 5 feet.
Yeah, I was coming up and hitting him like that, so he kind of does the Street Fighter knockout.
Yeah.
He goes flying backwards. So.
I'll tell you what, let's use the Oracle. Is there another bandit standing behind him?
Ooh. What are we rolling? Is that a well everything?
I'm gonna say let's roll that as a I would envision them as a little more spread out. So why don't we do a little bit of negative on that one? So let's roll a d20 and a d4.
All right, 12
Slightly less
minus 2, 10.
So no, but
Oh yeah.
I will say, if I'm going to be your tell me, how would you interpret no but? So there is not a bandit behind him, or we can also roll on the.
Oh no! There's no bandit behind him, but he lands on a branch that comes up and like smacks the other one. So it's like a dead branch on the ground. Doesn't hurt the other guy, but like messes him up.
Okay, let's say that from a condition standpoint, he is what's called impaired. Yeah. So for any rolls he makes until your next turn, he's -2 to his stats. So, all right, excellent. So now it's their turn. So you're going to make a defense roll because they're going to try to hit you with their clubs, their bludgeons. So the way this works is you have a shield. You can choose to apply it to one of the remaining 2 bandits. Do you want to apply it to the one that is kind of got hit by the branch and he's going to be rolling? He's not going to be doing as well, or do you want to apply it to the fresh guy who is rolling at full strength?
Shield against full strength guy.
Okay, so let's do the guy who is impaired currently. So he's going to have a value of 11. So you roll a d20 plus your defense value of plus 1d4.
14.
14. So yes, you managed to parry his club with your mace. And then the other guy, who is not dazed by the branch, he's going to come running and swinging at you with a bellow. So he's going to be at the full 13, but you can roll a plus 1d6 because you're using the shield.
Uh-oh, 9.
Okay, so he does connect. So he is going to smack you for 1 life point of damage.
Oh no. Let's see. We'll just make a little tick mark here. I took 1.
Yep.
So I have 3. Is that how that works? Or I can take up to 3 and then
you can take up to 3, and then when you take 3, you are knocked out. So right. Okay, and that's something. No, in terms of the School of Earth, the first 2 spells. That's the first 3 spells, just because that's how it printed off the sheet. That's the page. But you also know that Shield of Stone, but that's a major action, so it's good to keep that in the back pocket. That's one it's good to prepare. But yeah. Okay, so now we swing back up to you again. So it's your turn.
Alright. Yeah, well, you know what we're doing. Oh, what's that? There's two of them, though, isn't there?
Hmm.
Now, the spells, no limit on those, right? You just keep using them? Or
You
do you have
have
mana?
you have a mana of, I think it's, I don't know, I think it actually lists D4 for some reason, but you have 4 mana points. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So now certain spells do not cast, and certain actions, like for example, if you look at your traits, your path traits here, as a minor action, you can utter a small prayer to gain a +1 step to your next defense roll or attribute roll. So that doesn't cost you anything. You can still attack and do divine protection on yourself. It's just kind
Oh,
of a quick prayer to your god to keep you safe.
okay. All right. Well,
So,
yeah, we'll bonk branch dude and then do the divine protection. So
okay. All right.
that's a
So
20 and a
bump
6,
away.
right?
Yep.
Oh gosh, 11. That's not very good.
Well, it depends on which. Well, yeah, no, technically, yeah. So now, okay, you also have determination up here. If you want, you can spend them to do one. Spend one to do one of 3 things. First, you can reroll your d20. Second, you can maximize your d6 to a 6 to see if that makes a difference. And you know what the value is. You have to hit a 13. So if that would
Oh yeah,
bump it up to
well,
13.
yeah, I'll max out the D6 because it was a 1.
Okay, perfect. Then you crack him and he goes falling. So there's only one left. Now, let's do another oracle roll because you now have taken out 2 of these 3 guys. These are not, these are basically ruffians. Um, they're probably not people who are going to be in it to the last man if possible. They're opportunistic. So let's see if he wants to stay in the fight. I'm gonna say let's roll a dead even d20. Let's no modifier on it this time to see if yes he's gonna stay in the fight or no he's going to turn tail and run.
6.
A 6. Uh yeah, no, he's gonna run.
Dang
No, he
it.
does not want to stay in the fight. So, well, that doesn't mean you can't do something to him, but for his action this turn, he is going to start running away.
Can
So you can decide
I
if you want to pursue him or
can I yeet my mace at him since I don't have to worry about losing it?
you absolutely can eat your mace at him. Now, I'm going to say that's because maces aren't exactly aerodynamic. I'm going to say you technically would be -1 step, so you're just going to have to roll at your base strength, not without your weapon group
It's a
modifier. So just D4.
magic mace. It's totally aerodynamic. All right, was it just straight D20 or down? Yeah, just
No, D20 plus a D4. So you still get to
Oh,
hit
that's
for all
right,
your
because the
strength.
stack. Yep.
You're just not quite as competent because this is not really
Oh,
normally a throwing weapon.
9.
Okay. Yeah.
Shucks.
Yeah, you throw your mace at him. Unfortunately he ducks behind a tree. It misses, and yeah, and then you can call it back to your hand. But he is off in the woods, and he knows them better than you, so he has escaped.
That's unfortunate.
But there are 2 other, whether they're dead, unconscious, that's up to your story how you want to do it. But
Oh, they're dead. I smacked
okay. Oh no, they're dead. Okay. All right. So that was 2 encounters.
Can we search them to see if they have anything useful with the oracle?
Yeah. Tell me. Roll on the. I'm gonna say these guys are clearly they're middle of the woods scrub bandits. So I'm gonna say minus a D8 just because the chances of them having anything significant aside from lice and
So what were we doing? D20 minus what?
yeah, maybe the plague. Let's say D20 minus a D8.
D8. Okay. Oh god, I'm in the negatives. I rolled a 1 on the D20 and a 7 on the D8.
Yeah. So,
I think I caught a disease searching them.
yeah, actually, that is a complication. No,
Oh,
and um, so let's roll on our complication table. We haven't used that yet.
let's see.
We
Where's
kind of
there? It
said the
is.
complication table. So yeah, roll a d6, please.
Fun times. A 1. Oh man, I'm crushing
Oh,
it.
okay.
He was infested with a giant bug, and now the bug's coming out of him.
Um, hmm. Okay. So unless you have an
Alien.
idea, I can pretend to be you. Um, so yeah, he he disappears into the woods. Let's say you hear a scream a short time later, and then up out of the trees bursts a griffin with the bandit in its claws before you see its beak come down and take a bite out of him. um Now there's a lot of tree cover here, so the griffin may not have seen you yet.
Oh man.
So you can handle that in several different ways. You can handle that as a agility roll to hide yourself. um we could just leave it up to the oracle and say, hey, yes or no, the griffin does notice me. Your call. If you were playing this game, how would you rather do it?
Oh,
Would you rather do it
I'd use a
as...
stat for sure.
Yeah, okay. So
But
that
I'm
would
trying to
be
think what else I can do with it. Like,
uh,
because I
technically,
got two bodies in front of me that are still pretty fresh. So if he's
they are.
hungry,
Yeah, he is.
are they easy to find? That's what we'll ask the oracle. Are the bodies out in the open and easy to find, or are they buried in brush from when they fell over?
Okay, I like that.
So, D20 go. 13. Yes,
Okay, so
but
that would put you... Yes, but okay, yes, but so let's say... Well, no, yeah, you tell me. What? Yes, but so complication. Do you want to roll for
we'll
complication,
just
or you just
add
kind of
more
come up?
complications in there. So,
Yeah,
yes, they're
your
out
life
in
is
the
already
open,
complicated.
but there's already something else trying to drag them away. I'll let you pick what
Okay,
creature's dragging them away. I don't like it
okay.
in here in the boss. It's nasty.
It is rough in here. Okay, so you look over and you think, okay, maybe it'll go after the scent of blood and the fresh meat, for these two guys, only to see a very large snake has one of roughly about a third of one of the bandits down its gullet as it's trying to take him in for a long summer's digestion. So on the plus side, snake busy eating bandit. Giant snake busy eating bandit. Downside, you have to figure out how to deal with that and this griffin before.
Okay, so
So
that's where the agility roll comes in.
yeah, this is probably where the agility roll comes in.
Yeah. Okay, D20 and a D6. All right. Oh, 17.
Okay, 17. All right. So, well, here, let me show you, since we're again doing, you would have access to all of this anyway. So let's put up a griffin for a second, and so you can kind of see the behind the scenes of this. So if you look at the griffin, griffins are pretty competent, pretty deadly, kind of dangerous. One of the things they have is, of course, eagle eyes. Normally their skill value is only 13, but when it comes to noticing things, it's a 16. They have very keen eyesight. But since you roll 17, it's one of those situations where I would say you literally step out of the open just as the griffin comes flying down and grabs not only the one of the bandits, but the snake that's currently consuming it, and they kind of get into a bit of a tussle. The snake's, tries to wrap the back half of its body around the griffin, and the griffin's trying to, either eat the snake or eat the bandit or eat both, double treat. So that thankfully is enough of a distraction, we'll say, to let you slip away.
That's one
So.
encounter.
And that's kind of the thing, it's kind of one of those things, how you interpret that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's pretty
I like that again, is a storyteller part of me, is the idea that I like the idea of just, kind of like going through all this stuff where it's like, it could simply be, I'm and for a lot of people it's, I make an agility roll, I slip away, but I like the idea of kind of adding some narrative elements to that, this whole elaborate thing where Skrat's poor situation just keeps escalating and escalating. Okay, you have bandits. Oh wait, now there's a griffin. Now there's a giant constrictor snake.
So, we made it.
But you slipped away. So
I think we're gonna turn on some traveling music now.
Nice.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Let's roll for another encounter. D20.
D20. Here we go. Bloop. Ooh, 7.
A 7. Okay. So you notice on a nearby tree, there is a strange sigil carved into the bark. So, what do you wish to do about that?
A sigil. Nearby tree or rock. We'll say it's a tree.
Okay.
Because I like foresty things. And I will roll on the oracle to see. I would imagine, being the spell knight, like I have some familiarity with that kind of stuff. But there's also different groups of magic and people. So basically, I'm rolling to see.
I'll tell you actually what. You can do one of two things, I would say, because if you look at your vocations, you can roll a simple yes or no, or if you want to do it as an actual skill roll, you do know folklorist. So you would know, you might be able to recognize this, if this is like, maybe it's a bandit symbol, maybe it's a specific thing to the Bosk, maybe it's some kind of magical sigil. It's up to you. I think that's the nice thing about solo play too, is you kind of have the control to say, yes, I do know about this, via oracle, or roll the dice and take your chances to say, yeah, I do know what this is.
Okay. Well, I was gonna roll the oracle to see if it was a good or bad one, like a friendly one, or if it belongs to some. So, like, if it's bad, that might mean there's some more baddies nearby. So,
yes.
Let's see. D20. Here we go. Is it friendly? 9.
A
no,
9.
But. So, not friendly, but something.
Okay. So, let's. Why don't we try a context oracle about the butt?
Ooh. Context. All right. That's a D8.
So, that's a D8.
5.
A 5. Okay. So what you determine by looking at the sigil is that this is something used. You have heard of this. It's used by, let's say, it's used by outlaws as a way of like marking a road that is their group's territory. So it's kind of like, think of it like a gang tag, essentially. So odds are, if you wanted to go back and see what's left of those bandits, and isn't sitting in the belly of a griffin right now, that maybe they might have some kind of matching sigil, tattoo, something that might say this, or maybe they were encroaching someone else's territory. So yeah, it's kind of giving you a little warning that I would say, that's kind of the no but. So there's an opportunity that if you see the sigil, that there's probably going to be bandits lurking nearby because this is their territory. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. And we will try to avoid banditos. So
yes. Okay. All right, so we got one more random encounter.
Dun, 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 dun. 7 again. That's what we just did, wasn't it? Yep.
Yeah, let's do some
reroll.
more.
11.
11. Okay.
Merchant.
So let's see. So, what kind of merchant would you think you would find in the middle of a bandit-infested woods?
An alchemist that really wants a particular type of plant that I have.
Okay, let's see. Let's roll on the oracle. That would be very convenient, like a wandering, like alchemist or herbalist.
Let's see. 13.
13.
Yes,
okay.
But he's
Yes,
broke.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you find, let's say you find an herbalist, who makes potions and things for a nearby community. That. Let's see.
Recently robbed, Glee says.
Recently robbed. I
By
like
the
that.
bandits
Yeah.
we just encountered. So
Yeah,
they
actually,
did
yeah.
have money on them, and now it's in the snake.
Yeah, so they'd love to, pay. Normally they would pay you a hefty amount of coin for these flowers because they've been searching for them for days, but they don't. So, do they have something that they could trade you? That sounds like an oracle task as well.
I agree. And it is 14.
So 14 is a solid yes.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was another yes, but.
No, that's a solid yes.
Mhm.
All right, so why don't we say, I have an idea. You are injured. You did take a hit. So if you're willing to trade the flowers, they're willing to make a poultice that will heal your wound.
I'm totally down for that.
Okay. So why don't we say you do a nice even trade, you give them the flowers, that way you don't have to use your healing potion or use up your mana points. So they're willing to help you out. So yeah, so you can cross off your wound.
Very good. Done.
Okay. And I'm actually going to say this too, is that if you notice on your patron trait on your character sheet, anytime you discover something, you did discover that sigil. So you've learned a new piece of information. So you also regain one of your spent determination, which you spent one determination.
Ooh.
So that's always something to keep in mind in the game, is that your drive and your patron trait are ways that you get your determination back. The other ways are, you do something cool. I'm a big advocate of, the idea that during a game session, if you're the person who, makes the table laugh or comes up with a great idea, that's a reason to get determination back. And then every ancestry and every path has an option you can choose if you want that gives you another option to get your determination back. So, I kind of, I encourage people, during my games that I played to say, play to that, and even one of the big things about it, especially with your drive, is when it makes your life more complicated in pursuit of your drive. If you can justify that to the narrator, that's how you get determination back. In fact, you could even say that for this, like you were trying to figure out your answer to your heritage, and in the short time you've been in this forest, you've been attacked by bandits, you nearly got devoured by a griffin, you could have been a meal for a giant snake, you've clearly, it's made your life more complicated to seek out this information. So you could even argue that's get you your determination back as well. So all right, so with that, you find the red trees that the elder had spoken of. So I guess that's the question: is the old man of the woods here?
Boy.
Or are you gonna have to keep searching? So let's say he is, he's a wanderer, he's nomadic. I would say there's probably a good chance he's not at this very spot right now. So you might have to keep looking for a little longer. So let's roll on the mod oracle minus a d10. Let's see what we get.
16 minus 7.
No,
9.
No, but
He left a trail of breadcrumbs.
exactly. So you do see some things that you might indicate hit the signs of his passage. Let's say you find, I don't know, like this Blair Witch type of like weird little, stick. Someone has been making little things out of sticks. Or, we go for like, a Johnny Appleseed type thing, this ancient tree person, you see some freshly planted trees. Like some saplings that someone has recently planted.
Yeah.
Something that might tell you he's on the way. All right. So let's do another encounter, but let's roll because you're on the right trail now. So let's roll 2d20 and you get to choose.
We got a 1.
Okay, so nothing happens. So
and a 17.
All right, so you can either choose to deal with a important dignitary or royal caravan. There's not a lot of royalty in the Bosk, so let's say someone important on the run from a bunch of enemies, or just instead of an encounter, there's just a quiet period of searching. So, your choice.
I'm gonna go with nothing after everything that happened in that last one.
It's a fair choice. Okay, so let's say each time you search for the old man of the woods, you get a little closer each time. So instead of rolling a minus d10, now it's minus d8.
Okay, I like it. 3 minus 4.
No, and
Oh.
all right, let's roll a d6 on the complication table. See what happens.
3.
A 3, a loss. So what happens?
Oh man. Let's see. I could be really mean to myself and say, walking through here and something came up out of the ground and just like grabbed my shield and took it away. Like lose my shield.
What's that? Do you ever play the Legend of Zelda games?
Oh yeah.
I think it's called like a leg. There's a monster that if it eats you and then you lose your shield.
Oh yeah. Was that Ocarina of Time or?
I think a bunch of them had the legs in it, but yeah. All right, so something happens where you lose your shield. I like that. Yeah.
I don't, but
right. No, it just happens. Yeah.
I'll just put a big old X on my shield here.
Okay, so all right, so let's do the same thing. Let's say another roll 2d20, decide what your encounter is.
6 and 5.
A game animal that would make for an excellent dinner, but you're a squirrel. And another rare patch of flowers. If you run into that herbalist again, you can get more healing. Or maybe they can make you a shield out of I don't know, barley.
There you go. All right, I have more flowers. Scoop them up.
So collect some more flowers. Okay, so now we're down to a d8 or a d20 minus d6 to see if you encounter the old man of the woods.
Oh man, 9 minus 4.
Yeah, so no. All right, so that would be a 5, which is just no. Just a nice simple no.
I mean, that's
and
safe.
You keep searching.
Yeah. Does that mean we're doing an encounter next?
Let's do the same thing again. It's up to you. If again, this is a solo game that if you were running it, would you want to keep seeing if interesting stuff happens, or would you just kind of be like, all right, we're gonna keep looking around until.
Let's do an encounter. So D20.
Okay.
Whee!
D20.
4.
A 4. A lone enemy scout attempting to get into a larger group. Okay. Well, odds are that would be a bandit, but that just feels like we're just kind of.
We have decided they're out here. Like we found their little sigil roads to them, so they're probably all over the place. And they robbed our poor alchemist friend.
So okay, let's again, your choice. Do you want to make a die roll or do you want to make an oracle roll? Do you spot him first? Does he spot you? Do you want to try to hide from him first to see if he notices you? Your call.
An oracle got him here, basically. So let's do a skill roll to see if I remain hidden. And that would be Agility, right? So
Yeah.
D20, D6. Oh, it ain't looking good, Chief. 9.
Okay.
But
9.
I can use a determination point, right?
You can use determination if you want.
I will definitely
Yep.
re-roll the D20.
I say the only thing we do not like, we discussed it, but you can't use the determination on the Oracle. I just feel like it's kind of cheating. Cheating if you re-roll the Oracle. Then what's the point of rolling it?
Yeah.
So, you know.
All right, so another D20 go. 14 plus 6, so 20.
Okay. Oh, geez. So not only does he not spot you, but you are in such an advantageous position that if you choose, you will get a bonus on. You basically can roll an ambush, a sneak attack on him, if you want to take him out, or you can just basically do nothing and he's not going to come anywhere near you. It's your call.
Silent takedown.
Silent takedown. Okay, so we'll say that gives you +2 steps on your attack roll against him, as he.
That'd be a D10, right?
Yeah. As we were discussing before we came on, you know, there was a lot of that in that James Bond game I've been playing. So,
Oh, yeah.
been taking a lot of guys out quietly. So,
All right. So D20 is a 17 plus a D10 is
Ooh,
plus
jeez.
6. 23.
oh god, that is one dead bandit.
Never knew it hit him.
A flying squirrel leaps from the tree, and actually, technically, if we look at it, one of the abilities that you have, especially in a forest like this, is when you we didn't account for this, but whenever you are hiding from somebody in a forest, you get +2 steps because of your make like a tree ability. Your part, that's what you gain from being part plant, is that you kind of have a your fur and what skin is exposed kind of has like a plant-like quality, so you blend in real well to wildlife. So yeah. yeah, he is an ex-bandit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I had the mace on the ground. I threw it out ahead of him, and he looked at it, and I called it back to me, and it went right through him.
I like it. All right, so now we're down to a D20 plus a D or minus a D4 to see if you find the old man of the woods.
D20 go. It is an 11 minus 3.
Nope.
So 8. Yep.
No, but all right. So I'm gonna say this time I'm gonna interpret that as there's no encounter. You're just traveling this time because you know we could keep doing encounters, but I think it's something that it's gonna reach a point where we're gonna get through the whole encounter table where you're trying to find this guy.
The whole place.
So yeah, it's a relatively peaceful part of the forest, we'll say, and that so instead of rolling an encounter, now you can just roll a straight D20 to see if you have located where the old man of the woods.
10. That's still enough. Dang it! Right on the edge.
Let's keep going. So now you've searched a huge area of the red leaf section of the forest, and now there's not a lot of area left. So now we're rolling a D20 plus a D4.
7. Just a straight no.
Nope.
I'm getting tired, man. My squirrel's wearing out.
Your squirrel's wearing out. All right. So, yeah. Do you want to do another encounter? Or you always keep searching.
That was just a straight no. So let's do another roll here. So
let's do the same thing we did before, where it's like a 2D20 and choose.
18.
18. A rival band of adventurers, or
no. That was for the Oracle roll.
Oh, I thought, okay. Oh, 18. Yeah, okay. To notice them, yes. So that is just a straight yes. Okay. So yeah. So you come into a clearing and you see this. Normally a rooted is, they're about the same height as an average human, maybe a little taller sometimes. This looks like a rooted, but there's far more branches. There's far more gnarled, and this being is at least 15 feet tall.
Ooh.
So very big. And he is tending to the trees. And unless you call attention, he's not probably going to notice you immediately. So
I will call out to an old man of the woods and try and peacefully, diplomatically get his attention.
My name's Gary. Oh no. Wait. Old man of the woods. That's not my name. I know we shared that, like, kind of what the route would look like generally. So just imagine a much larger version of this. So he's also naked.
Naked.
He's not wearing any clothes. He's in the woods. He's if he had private parts, they'd be covered in conveniently placed moss. But he's
roots just all hanging out.
Yeah, yeah. He turns towards you and regards you, and asks you about what your business is.
So pretty much the same thing I did with the old lady back there, the pickle.
Make a charm roll.
And I'll tell him my story. It's like, look, I'm trying to figure out more about me, what's going on, all that, and tell him I will plead for information, basically. So,
okay, I would say that would be a charm roll with diplomacy, since you're being friendly, and
so that'd be up to D8, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's not good. 9.
Okay, would you like to determine that?
I would. Let me re-roll my D20. I already got rid of it, but I think it was a 5. 14 plus whatever the D8 was, which was, I think, a 4 or 5.
Okay.
Somebody rewind the stream. Tell me.
I would say that's probably a pretty solid roll. So yeah, he is willing to talk to you and discuss things. I guess the question would be, does he know the answer to your heritage, or does he at least have some kind of suggestion? Now, he is an ancient being.
Yeah.
With knowledge beyond that of most mortal people. Not as much knowledge as the patrons, but he has been around for a long time. So I would say that it's, at least if he doesn't know the exact answer, he probably has a good chance of knowing something that will put you in the right direction. So let's say we'll add give him a D10. Let's go all the way. Let's do a D12.
All right.
Plus
so
one D12
to where we find out if we have a second quest or not. So
yes.
D20 lands on a 9. D12 lands on a 6. 15.
15. Okay, that's firmly in the yes. So I would interpret, that he doesn't know exactly what you are, but he knows how you can find out what you are. So that would be kind of, the point where we'd say, that this would lead to a new quest.
Yeah, this is, if I were doing it, this would be setting me up for the next day that I would totally come back and do and not procrastinate. And there would be an old forgotten temple in this woody place we're in. So
exactly.
Do some dungeon diving for
he
the truth.
leads you to the next step of it. So, and I mean, you could even do that as part of one of the tools that we kind of have in there is the journey inspiration tool. So why don't we just test that out?
Yeah, where's it? That's not a. Oh, there it is. Yeah, journey inspiration. All right.
Yep, it's in there.
D6. Here we go.
Or what? You could do 3d6s if you want. So just kind of
do 3. All right. We got 3, 4, and 1.
Okay, so let's say the quest he gives you is, say we have deliver, knowledge, and monetary. No, that wouldn't really fit. But let's just say deliver knowledge. So that you have to, I don't know however you want to interpret that, like that you have to. He imparts like maybe a password into the temple. So you have to take this information or take this password, or he gives you a rite that you need to cast to gain access to the temple because of a magic seal on it. Yeah. So
he just magic ball. It is knowledge, but I have to take it to that temple we talked about, down to the bottom, and there's an altar, and you place that, and that's how I get the knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're delivering like an artifact there to unlock the So
Very
so and that, like you said, that would lead you into the next night. So there we go.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the fun of all this, is just the idea that, the cool thing to me about solo play is just that it really is just your story. The fun part about any kind of RPG is, it should be a collaborative group effort, but ultimately when you have a game where you have a GM, a narrator, the narrator is basically guiding the plot for the most part. They're the ones saying, these bandits have leapt out the woods or attack, roll initiative. They're saying, what's going, kind of like what I did, as part of this, is like guiding the plot. But when it's your own game, you're the one making all the decisions. You're the one, and that's kind of why we did the mod Oracle the way it is that sometimes you're going to want a specific answer because maybe you have a cool idea, or you have something that you really want, where you want it to go. But there's always the chance that it's still not going to go the way you want. And then you have to kind of think on your feet and go, okay, well, I really wanted, the elder to know where the old man of the woods was, but no, the oracle said, no, she does not know. So now I have to go find somebody else and figure it out. Or no, I had a backup in case that didn't work out for you, of another person that was going to try to lead you there, So it's about that, I think it's fun about that. Like, that's kind of the fun to me too, is that, if you're doing it completely randomly, you don't know what's going to happen.
So something I've noticed, and Twice did, if you're still hanging around, I think you said you had a lot of solo experience you did, so you can tell me if it's the same way for you or if it's something you break through. But I've noticed when I try and do it, things like this with the randomness and whatever, the first few decisions that you have to make, those are the hardest ones. Like, decision slash randomize, what am I going to do with this, where's it going to go? But then as each consecutive one you make gets easier for that adventure specifically, because like you just get more to work with. But when you start with nothing, that first one, it's like for me, I guess it's almost decision paralysis kind of, because you're thinking of all the different options. Like, even just what quest am I going on? It's like so many different things. Like, no, just roll something and go. It's just, that's what I was saying earlier too. Try not to think too much about it. Just roll up something quick and run with it and see where it goes. And then, as you start piling on more and more and more, this story starts coming together. It might be a little bit of a mess, but you'll start getting something.
The mess is the fun part too. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Like, how many of us, even in a group play, haven't had those nights where you're the game master and you have sat down a whole week and you have written down meticulous notes and you have plotted things out and you have sat in your head and go, okay, this person's going to talk in an outrageous French accent when they encounter this person, and this person's going to, they're going to hold the secret to everything going on. This person's going to betray them. And then you get to your game session and your group is like, and you're like, okay, we're going to go to the keep and find out what the mystery is about the Baron's disappearance. And they're like, what's over there?
Yep.
So, and that's again kind of this experience to me is like, that's the fun of it is you don't know half the time. Like you said, it's the first part is hard, and that's kind of where, like, if you this journey inspiration tool that Justin had came up with, that was the purpose of why he developed it. Was the idea of sometimes he sits down with a game and he's like, I don't know what kind of story I want to tell. I don't know what the goal is going to be. I don't know. And that was where he did that. A simple little tool to say, okay, here's some goals. Here's some targets. Here's a reward. Here's I could roll 3 dice and have ideas for an adventure, or interpret it how I want to do it. That is stuff like that, which makes it a little easier because it kind of gives you gives you a little nudge in a direction to say, okay, I don't know where I'm going to do this session tonight or what I want to accomplish, but okay, so I'm going to be protecting a mysterious mage from villains, and the goal was safety, that I make them through, that I get them to their location safely without them being assassinated. There you go. There's a story from a couple prompts.
Yeah.
So
Let's see. Crabsoft said or asks, is there anything in the tables to support NPCs being liars? Liar NPCs are my favorite, and usually how I handle that scenario if I wanted him to know, but he doesn't.
I think in terms of like one of the things we talk about in the rules is very much a case of you need to kind of develop sometimes your own context oracles and your own things. Because, we give examples in there, but it's not going to accomplish every single task. I would love to have put in a perfect table in there that, you roll 1d20 and you're going to come up with, any scenario, but it's just not a feasible thing. I think it's just kind of that case of like, if you build some of the stuff ahead of time yourself, it could be in there, It can also come out of some of those roles, about, you talk about being a liar, you roll something on the Oracle and you get a complication of enemy in that NPC who seemed like a friend, you suddenly realize, oh, wait. No, in fact, actually, that was one of the goals. Like if you had not done well in the town, there was another NPC who was a bandit who posed as a guide and was going to go, hey, I can take you to the old man in the woods. No problem, bud.
I know exactly where he is.
Just follow me. Oh, and that group of people ahead with all the knives, they're just, forestry people, loggers. Yeah, they like to slowly cut down trees with big sharp swords and knives. We're just going to go right in the middle
carvers. They leave art behind.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I think it is it's kind of how you use the tools for that. Or even like if you're looking at the complications table on here, that a liar could be several of those. It could be a trap, it could be a distraction. It really is, and that's I think what the interesting part about any of these tools is. It really is your interpretation. How you want it to play out. It is uncertainty. And just even that question that you asked the Oracle, this NPC who's trying to help me, are they trustworthy? Yes, they are. Or no, they aren't. Or yes, and they are they are trustworthy, and they're gonna really help me out, or they're gonna have my back if we get into combat. Or yes, but they are trustworthy, but they have their own agenda. So they are lying about something. So
you have your roll chart oracle for degree of lying. It's like, is he lying? No. A little bit.
Yes.
A lot bit. Everything he says is a lie.
Constantly. Compulsive liar. Doesn't even realize he's lying half the time. So
yeah, the nat 20. He's like, he's just crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I like I said, it's just, we have a lot of examples in the book, but, it's not exhaustive. Otherwise, the book itself, I think the final page counts like 262 pages, I think, with all the index and character sheet and all the other fun stuff.
263 in my PDF.
Oh yeah, because you have the PDF. PDF is slightly longer because there's we have the back cover in there too, so it kind of adds a little bit. But yeah, so it is that kind of case where the stuff we have in there, it takes up a good, like, I think maybe 10 pages, I think is the solo rules. So we put as much option there, but it is going to be something that I think you have to add your own tools or modify the tools we have in there to get exactly what you want. So, but we talk about it. We talk about the need to do that.
Kind of the way solo goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, not to get too far off topic here, I think that's where some people get lost in the sauce trying to start, thinking they need tables and tools for everything. And that's why I like that one video so much that I mentioned before we got started from Kevin and Dolekis. He's like, this is all you need. This one little D6. It's all you need. And you just go through it. But I like what you did though with your different tables and
and that's the thing I think we say in the chapter is that you don't need to use everything. We have all these tools in there, but you pick and choose. And like I said before, if you don't like it, use the tools like you said, that simple D6 tool. I think when I was originally even contemplating the idea of solo rules, I had just a real basic like a D8 table, and that would kind of cover all your bases, and that was it. Because it depends how like you said, you can kind of overthink it, or you might need all those tools. Maybe for you, your experiences, it's kind of more, it's fun to you to introduce more randomizing elements into the game, so you don't have to do as much of the load in terms of that, or that you want to be inspired by and have like some prompts. And for some people, they just might need a simple oracle, and then they make up the rest on their own. I think it's just like any gaming session too. Everyone, you're gonna have gaming sessions where all they want to do is kill every monster they come across and don't want to deal with any. And then you have people who want to have intricate, elaborate social interactions with every NPC they meet. Or it's just, we all have different game styles. How many people do you know that every character they play has elaborate voices and personality quirks, and then you have the guy that says, I talked to the merchant and I'm going to give him back gold to buy an axe.
That's me.
It's fine. Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that.
It's
kind of your own way. Just like solo players, every player has a style and preferences and things we want. So, and like I said, I wish we could write a huge, section of the book which was just dedicated to solo play, but we want to make sure we have the rules you need in there to play. It's not exhaustive, but I think we have enough tools and options in there that if you don't have other options, it'll get you started. If you do, it gives you options to consider, to try it. Like I said, we tried to flavor the oracle specifically towards scale mail, so to give it the same flavor as the game.
Well, I think it worked. Now, last question here, and then we'll scoot, because we've been at it for a little while. Let's see. Twice Dead asks, got any map making tables for overland travel?
I did not get to put that in there, to be honest. I really wanted to put a hex crawl section in there too.
Ooh.
I love a hex crawl.
Maybe your DLC package.
Yeah, that there's a big list of things in a document that I have, which is either stuff that didn't make it into the book, and essentially, not even the case of like stuff that's not even fully fleshed out. Hex crawl was in there. There is a discussion in the one chapter, specifically in the adventuring chapter, which does talk about traveling, and how you can make rolls to navigate into different areas, how you can kind of mess that up and get lost. So we do talk about it. It's just that I would have personally, if I could have done it and really sat down and give it the time I wanted to, I would have had like a whole hex crawl thing in there. But I also know that that's not everybody's cup of tea. So it kind of came down to the decision of I needed to make something that was I hate to say generic, but simple enough that anybody could use it as far as the exploration traveling part. Like there are traveling rules in there, there's traveling discussions in the main game, but not everybody's going to do a hex crawl, so I can't dedicate 10 pages of the book to a hex crawl when not everybody's going to do that. So that's kind of unfortunately where it fell on.
Accessible, Glee says.
Yes, exactly. That the rules in there cover your needs in terms of like travel, without making you go through a lot of extra bookkeeping. But again, down the road, given the opportunity, I would love to do a more elaborate system of exploration and travel. That could be definitely something. One of the notes is I would love to do a book about the world. There's a chapter on the world and that explains things, like some of the stuff we talked about tonight is pulled from that chapter. But if you're including everything including the kitchen sink in a game book, you have to make sacrifices in places. So I didn't want to do a World of Darkness book where the first 120 pages are the lore and the setting, and then you get to the rules and stuff. Not everybody's going to want that. Some people are going to want to take scale mail and use it in the world I created. Some people are going to want to take scale mail and use the worlds they created. So, but I would love to do a book about the world, and I think that would be a great place to have more intricate travel rules. and exploration rules and a discussion about some of those options. So
Very cool. Wow. Sounds like you got more projects in the oven. So that's the
Always a
way it
project.
goes, right?
yeah,
You can't
unfortunately,
do
we
just
creative types-
one.
Yeah,
You gotta
there's
do 10 or
18 million
20.
fires in the iron. So
Yeah. Too many irons in the fire. We've all
Yeah.
been there. All right.
Very
well,
true.
I thought it was super cool. I think I already liked Scale Mail as it was. So it's very neat to see its own little solo thing and with its own little, I will say, twist to kind of use your core concept of your modifier dice there on the Oracle. That's a nice little touch.
Thank you.
I like that. I think you guys knocked it out the park, and I know I asked you for a link for to put in the descriptions, and then I didn't put it in there. So as always, this is the norm for my streams. I remember at the end of them, I will update the description and put the link in there. So
yeah, like I said, we are currently fulfilling the Kickstarter. Your book will be coming, your physical book.
that's right,
But
because
it
it
is
just got to that point. So
yes, it is available for digital purchase on DriveThruRPG right now.
Yep.
So,
yeah, so that's how just happened this is. Like, we had to check the DriveThruRPG page to see if it was live.
it literally went up yesterday. So
Yeah.
so it is officially live, for public consumption right now.
All right.
So
And what did you say was the name of the guy and his channel that helped you with the solo stuff?
Justin Rowley's his name. It's books, bricks and boards, or it's
Books,
books-
bricks, and boards. That's his
I apologize,
YouTube.
Justin. Yeah, because it might be books, boards, and bricks. I can't remember which order it's in.
Well, let's
but
go find it real quick.
yeah,
'Cause I'll
'cause
put it on
'cause-
here because I'm going to link it too.
Yeah, it's books, bricks, and boards. He does. I mean, mainly he discusses, and I would appreciate, everyone I think has their thing, in terms of people who want to talk about RPG content. A big thing he does is he talks about a lot of older games, that some of us who are older can go back and go, oh yeah, I remember playing this. So he does a lot of discussion in history of games and stuff like that too. But he has discussions about things, and he does a lot of solo play as well. So
Man, this looks super familiar.
yeah, he's been around for a little while.
Say, have I been in a call with him? Did I see him in a convention? Or
He might have, yeah. So I mean, yeah, he's been doing this for a while. But like I said, he's got some interesting stuff on his channel, and he's a good guy. So he was very generous to kind of help me with this and kind of help me figure out how we needed to make the best section, in terms of having an extra solo section of the book, how we could make it as good as we could make it. So
all right. Well, I will do one more little shout out here because you had mentioned superhero games. And I meant to say it back then, totally forgot. Now I'm just remembering. John from Sharp Mountain Games. He's got a little YouTube channel, but he made Streamlined Superheroes. And we just... Are you familiar with it?
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind.
Wait, you can tell other people. It's just I am very much a superhero. I mean, I wrote a game called Destined, a superhero game. So that's actually, prior to this, that was my biggest project. So yeah, I'm a collector of superhero games. I love superhero games. So yes, I'm aware of it. So and I appreciate it. I actually have it. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll say we played it recently, and I played it at a convention about a month or so ago. And yeah, I love it. I'm not a big superhero fan, but that game, that system is super cool, and he runs a super fun game too. So it's like, I'm fine with being a superhero.
Yeah, real quick, it's interesting to me, and I always find this in terms of like, just my quick aside is that, it seems like superhero games, there's always superhero games out there, but it doesn't feel like they kind of get that popularity. I mean, you have some things like Mutants and Masterminds and stuff that maybe kind of get a little bit more, and I know there's of course a new DC game coming, there's been a Marvel game that's still out there, but for whatever reason we don't play a lot of superheroes. And I always think we kind of play power fantasies all the time in role-playing games.
Say
you
think with superheroes in D&D.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, come on, you're like you were kind of a ninja squirrel leaping out of a tree on top of a bandit, with your magic, base that flies back to your hands, like Mjolnir for Thor.
Yeah.
It's very much something where we play superheroes, but for some reason there's it doesn't feel like it's a genre that is as popular as you think it would be for RPGs. You know, that to me is it's why I've always loved superhero games, is because it is that power fantasy. It's kind of that thing. We play these games because it lets us do things that we can't do in real life. As of yet, I can't shoot laser beams out of my eyes. I'm working on it.
One day.
Just keep exposing myself to radioactive spiders, hoping for something. But yeah, it's just like I said, it's interesting to me. But I trust me, if you throw a superhero game my way, I'm absolutely down for it, because I love superhero games. And I have a couple that I'm in my back pocket that I'm working on as pet projects. So
awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I got that all out the way, so we will hang it up. Our warden, Mr. Warden's over there, is already heading out. See you later if you haven't already left. As for the rest of you, I appreciate y'all coming out, hanging out, and see what this is all about. I will update the stream description and put the link in there, as always. So until today's Tuesday, so Thursday, I will be back, and I will be interviewing the Blind Bard. If you want to go check her out before then, she's got some really interesting tricks on how to play, or how the TTRPG experience is when you're blind. So a lot of interesting stuff. So I'm excited to have a little chat with her. And until then, then I will see y'all in the Discord or in various YouTube comments. So say bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube. Thank you.
Woo! All right, now we push all the stop buttons. There's only like 3 of them. In stream.
All right.
Stop.